Thank you so much for tuning in live if you're watching now or later on. We appreciate you. I'm Vita King Blanchard. I have 20 plus years of doing mind, body, spirit work professionally. I have a master's in consciousness studies, and I'm here with Philip. Do you want to say
Hello.
anything about yourself?
I'm Phillip Weber. I'm an agile coach and at this point, online community builder for heritage crafters on the side. And I've quite enjoyed our previous series, watching Vita produce all the toolbox building exercises was amazing, and I'm excited to be back.
Yeah. Yeah, so this is episode 16 in actualizing our authentic selves. And just like we do with every episode, we're going to start with a centering practice. Tonight, we're going to do a body check-in. So just go ahead and close your eyes if that feels comfortable to you. Bring your attention to following your breath. Simply follow it as it moves in its natural rhythm in and out. As you follow your breath, notice how your body moves in response, how it expands and contracts. Allow your attention to wander through your system, noticing what it feels like where you're sitting, how your clothes feel, simply noticing the state of your body. And then gently return your attention to your breath. And as you're ready, move a little and then open your eyes. Hmm. So I know even just a general check-in like that supports me in feeling settled without even trying to do anything, right? It's one of those small reflections of how we change simply by bringing attention to ourselves, which is perfect because tonight, Philip and I are going to be discussing integrating change and what that process is, what the experience of it is, some tools that work for me. And Philip is actually going to be presenting questions that we've discussed, but instead of me asking them this time, it'll be Philip. And
Oh yeah.
yeah, feel free to add questions or comments into the chat or to put them on the post later on. We would love to hear from you.
Absolutely. So, are you ready? I would love to lead in with this first question, and I think change is definitely the name of the game here. So, I was excited to come to you this episode and talk about integration and how you integrate changes of different sizes or shapes or textures in your
Mhm.
life, because I think you do an amazing job with it. And it's one of the things that we mutually enjoy about each other, I think. And so, like,
Sure.
this is
Sure.
just an awesome topic. So, for the first question, Vita, I have multiple parts because I want anyone tuning in to be able to take something away from this. And I thought examples are the kinds of things that help me understand what someone means when they say things like integration. So, can you tell us about integration you've experienced before? And I'm going to ask if you want to go into what was the first you recall immediately, or if there's something else that just comes to mind when you think about integration in general.
Well, when I think about integration in general, which is where my mind went first, I think about Slade. For anyone watching who doesn't know, my son, his birth and death required a lot of process and integration. I mean, I had my Slade was living with me for 5 days, like outside of my body. Um, and and getting adjusted, in after delivery and bringing him home was like this huge fast transition. First pregnancy was a it was a huge transition,
Oh,
right? A
wow.
huge change. Then bringing him home was another huge change. And then he died suddenly, and
Mm.
another huge change, right? So all of that kind of stacked, and I had to integrate it all at once. I mean, all at once and also piece by piece, because the truth is that
Right, it all began at once.
right. It all came to a head at the same time. But obviously I couldn't have processed it all at once. I don't believe. Anyway, uh,
Sure.
right. So that like that's the most profound example that I have. Um, because initially I was in a state of profound grief on the floor. You know,
Hmm.
that's where I spent the first 6 months after Slade died, and with a focus on connecting to him still, because I believed at that point in my life that we were more than our bodies, but I didn't know
Hmm.
it yet. And so it kind of sent me on this journey that I've talked about in some other videos, but to where I am now, which is where I know that we all exist here together in this space, in this time, and that someone being out of their body doesn't make them less here, doesn't make them less
Mm.
present.
Mm. That's super meaningful. And it sounds like a gift of the integration. It sounds like multiple integrations. I think that was an important thing I heard you say was that they can overlap, right?
Oh
Um,
yeah. Yeah.
and it sounds kind of like like major life changes, right, require integration, or is it maybe that major life changes are the kind of things where integration is part of the dynamic?
I think yes, and right? Like
Mm,
everything well, major life changes require us to do, I think in a bigger way, like I want to underline the word require here in highlighter. Um, demand of us some amount of integration in order to move forward, right? In order for me to get off the floor from my grief, I had to come to some amount of peace. I wasn't where I am now, obviously, at first, right? But in order to get off the floor and start doing regular daily stuff again, I had to recognize the love in my life. I think was my first step. Was just like being returning to gratitude, which is such a powerful practice, and looking around me at all the people who love and support me, all the people who were calling in to check on me, were coming to visit, coming to help, bringing me food, all of the support I was getting, and then that love inspired me to return to expressing my own love, and so it's how do I love my son? And then I started planting a garden for him.
mm,
And that demanded it of me. And also, I find at this point in my life that to find that inner stillness, that peaceful inner landscape that really like the toolbox of the whole podcast is talking about developing that and supporting that. Um, that that becomes smoother, easier, more facilitated just by integrating every change. So even the small changes, like like this podcast.
Uh-huh.
This episode of the podcast, viewers may or may not know, but we've rescheduled it several times. Um, First, I well, I was separated from the job I was at and went back to working for myself full time. And and so I was like, oh, integrating change, that will be like a great next podcast episode. And then I just needed more time because I was refocusing my energy to put my studio back up and to get word out to clients and etc. But after a week or two, I felt like I was there, I was ready. And then my internet went down. Like I just literally had no internet on the next night that I thought I was gonna do it. And and then and then a dear friend who's Sean, who's like a little brother to me, had a graduation ceremony that I wanted to be at. So and didn't tell us until 2 days before. So then it got postponed again. So that was last week.
Classic little brother.
Right, right. But so those small changes, right? Each of those could have felt like irritations, right? This is where mindset really comes into it and paying attention to what's happening in our bodies. Where is the tension so that we know what we're showing up with, right? What we're bringing to the table. Because, you know, having a big change in career or not career, but job like that, because my career is the same, just the location has changed.
Hmm. Hmm.
But having a sudden shift like that at times in the past has felt much larger for me. And this time I was just kind of like, okay, here I am. I trust me. I know I can do this. I know that no matter what, I'm providing great sessions for people and they're going to find me and it's going to be great, you know? Um, and and then delaying the podcast. Like I feel a responsibility to the people who have continued to watch these episodes or listen to them. I'm digest them in some way. I'm just so grateful. And so when I said originally I was going to postpone it to this specific day, I wanted to be there on that day. And integrating, taking the time to sit with that and integrate it and allow myself that extra space meant that I didn't have to carry extra stress on my plate.
That sounds like a crucial part of the process is that it lets you an integrated challenge is one that you can gracefully approach now. Is something that like I heard, like maybe it gives you the slack to be graceful or to have done the inner work, I suppose. So this okay, this is clicking more and more for me. Now,
Well, and I love there's something that you said to me like a year or two ago, which I think you got from a book, but do less, right?
oh
And
yeah.
yeah, and so I think about that all the time and I this is one of the areas where it comes up for me because really I find and I believe this is true for all of us because, you know, projection, but but I but I find that taking the time to integrate anything that is in front of me, anything that I'm experiencing, anything that I have some kind of mind, body, or spirit reaction to is me doing less, right? Because otherwise, if I don't take that time, I'm committing myself to carrying stress until I do take the time to sit with it, feel it, whatever process it is. Yeah.
Yeah, I this and I'm gonna move on to the next question, but this totally I feel this in my own life. I feel like my body, my mind sends me emails
Yeah.
and I need to go in and click into them and read them and just like the idea the mental like mark all is read is a saint-like task. If you could do that, that would be amazing. Like that's apotheosis. But you need to let those notifications arrive and be noted, is my experience, before they end, or they'll just keep going like an Alexa in your kitchen, just meh, meh, you know. All right, all right. So that said, second question about integration still. Do you have a predictable cycle or flow of integration or milestones to tell where you are at in the process?
Yeah, so one of the reasons that I have built in that we opened with a body scan and we're surprised also going to close with one. Um,
Ooh.
right? Just and I'm calling it a body checking because we're not doing a scan in the normal way. But noticing what is happening in my body, just whatever it is my stomach clenching? Is my heart beating faster? Do I need to put more focus in to breathe deeper? Do um do my shoulders go up?
Oh yeah.
Do I cross my arms? Right? Like those are all physical cues that I think are just so helpful. Our bodies are such beautiful barometers and they will respond to subconscious thoughts before they surface. And
Mm.
and sometimes to our feelings before we have awareness of them. And so tuning in to my body has just been the biggest gift to me. It is always the thing that starts me on. It is the marker that I go back to check again and again. And then as it progresses, right, like whatever I'm interacting with, whether it's an event or an experience, to use Slade's death again, right? Like,
Mhm.
um, I could check in like about and notice when I felt sad, which I don't have sorrow about Slade anymore. I have joy and peacefulness and gratitude and connection
Mm.
and so his birthday is next month and I'm looking forward to it and I'm contemplating spending time with my ancestors. And also I went for years, I think almost a decade of me just noticing, oh, there's more sorrow. Oh, I was just talking about him and I felt like I need to cry. Oh, somebody else talked about him and I reacted, right? Like, no matter where I think I'm coming from in a reaction, just the fact that I have a reaction is to me like an arrow pointing towards something in me that needs more support from me.
Mm. I I think that's crucial, right? Is that like finding the beginning in your body
Hmm.
is like I think absolutely how I also understand it, and that I think of it as I learned what my emotions feel like because like I remember realizing this was a comedy routine that was the joke was like um that testosterone is a hell of a drug is kind of like where the joke was going, and I was like, oh, I actually know what the face of testosterone is, right? Like I get that teenage guys in the locker room kind
Mm.
of aura is that chemical inside just shaping the impulses that we're feeling. And suddenly I was like, oh my God, I've been like that. My dad, I've seen it in us, when we're like triggered and all the adrenaline's rushing and it's like, oh snap, that's something I need to pay attention to. and act differently when I'm under the influence, but I don't notice getting there. I only notice suddenly my blood's rushing and I'm like acting quickly and I'm saying things that I normally wouldn't say. And I was like, oh my God, my body, I see it first there. Um, as an example, I could tell
That's
I
a
need to
great
do
example.
work.
Yeah. Yeah.
Tell me more. So that's like the beginning. Like what about when you're in the middle of it? When do you know that you've done some work, I guess, but you're not done?
So when we're talking about those reactions, right? Like if I it's an increasing of space. So so I've celebrated Slade's birthday every year since he
Mm-hmm.
passed. And he And in the beginning, it was like irritating for me because everybody else was sad. And
Mm-hmm.
I wanted to celebrate Slade. And I have celebrated his birthday and observed his death day every year. And his death day has been a day of like connection for me and a quiet day. And his birthday has been one where I want to celebrate him with people or with myself, depending on the year. But he uh he he is always a comfort. I don't know why it came out of my mouth that way. Um, but in the beginning, other people would show up and they were not actively mourning Slade. I was actively mourning Slade. I was processing every day. And so on his birthday, in that first year, I was at a place where I really was ready to celebrate him. And people showed up and they just wanted to be sad with me. And I was like, oh, this is not why we're here, guys. And in the first year I had like a big reaction to it. And then I got to spend time with that. And I don't know that it was an external reaction, but it felt big inside of me.
Mm.
Um, and and as I spent time with that in subsequent years, I have noticed that, each year, each time someone is sad about Slade, I've had increasing space until now when I tell someone, when I meet someone and I tell them that I have a son who is deceased and they get sad, because that is the typical reaction. Not everybody. I actually had a nice surprise on that with someone I met recently, but most people will get
Mm-hmm.
sad and and they and I am able to be there for them, be present with them and and talk through it and talk about how I feel connected to him. And I feel like I'm in a vibrant space with him. And so it's not sad for me. And I know that it can be challenging to hear that a child has died, um, for anyone.
Yeah.
So that it has been a huge marker for me, right? And that's that process is when do you stop reacting when you're integrating change, right? Like, at what point does an external challenge that would have rubbed you the wrong way no longer feel like a challenge? When
Oh
are we,
yeah.
right? When are we able to still show up feeling peaceful, feeling steady and and just in ourselves? Or even with the other person, but without taking on what the other person or external circumstance is feeding us.
Yeah. Oh, and there's wow. So two things there. One is that external pull where someone else's emotional tractor like draws you into their experience, right?
Mhm.
especially if they're panicking or being toxic. It can be very difficult, but it happens no matter what, right? And we even predict it and we'll send ourselves to places other people aren't. For example, like you tell me something that I assume should hurt you and you'll be sad about, then I will immediately sympathize or try and empathize or both. And, you know, send myself to that place. I'm like, well, we must be in a bad place now. Is an easy thought. Uh, another one, or did I lose it there? Wait, no, I can't remember. It was,
Brains,
mm,
you know?
Brains, exactly. I know. So it's right on time. Let's go into the third question, which is perfect because we just talked about the beginning and the middle to some degree. Oh, okay. All right. No bonus. I do have to ask. When that first year you showed up having matured your integration of Slate's death to a significant degree, do you think that the people who showed up and hadn't, do you think it was that people had not done as much integrating as you and they came expecting to integrate somehow in that moment? Like, do you think that like like if you only grieve one day a year, it's going to take you a lot longer? It was kind of like what popped into my head. So I'm curious what you felt like. What were the differences between your integrating and their integrating, if you can
Well, I
cast
think,
back?
well, so I think it goes back to kind of what we talked about at the very beginning of this episode, which is that I had to, right? It was a life circumstance where, in order to be functional, life demanded that I process. And I already had this, well, the beginnings, right, of my toolkit, my mind, body, spirit toolkit.
Hmm.
Um, I'd already been in the field for 10 years when Slade was born or so. And been studying this stuff my whole life. So I just, yes, if we only show up to process something one day a year, it's going to happen more slowly than if we're processing every day. And for people who it's everybody has to do, we all have to do what we're able to as we're able to, right? It's like that idea of from the Four Agreements that in every moment, we're all doing the best that we can. And I know that because, again, right now I'm projecting, but he agrees. We all project the same. Like, but
Mm.
it's something that I evidentiarily I understand to be true that like when I am able to be my to be better than I am, when I'm able to have more patience, more space, to show up with more love, to be more even, to all of these things like feel like me, to show up as more of me, which is what we're doing in this series, right? Actualizing our authentic selves. I do. I show up with all of me that I have in every given moment. And I believe that that is true of all of us, right? And the question is, are you tired? Are you hungry? Are you carrying extra baggage? And do you know that processing, taking the time to process is actually going to help you do more. So doing less actually helps you do more, taking that time out. And a lot of people don't have that knowledge. Maybe they have an idea of it and they understand that, like, I think most people understand that vacations are important.
Mm.
Most people understand the importance of restoration and relaxation. Um, And also, I'm not sure that most people understand the profundity of it and the opportunity to process and how much easier things get after. when you uncover whatever gift is in the change that you're experiencing.
Wow. Yeah, that strikes home. I and this closes in on our last question, which we've got 5 minutes for, per the schedule,
We've got
which we
time.
stick to loosely. Exactly.
Time.
Um, but this is perfect because I want to ask, like, how do you know that you've done enough integration on something? At least for the moment, I assume or like what comes from that final phase where you're like, my space, like the expansion
Mhm.
or the tool or the gift, I'm just curious, like, what's
Yeah.
it like?
Well, this is why I talk about healing as a spiral a lot, right? Like Jung uses the spiral analogy. But I find it on in mind, body, and spirit that there's this spiral where, as I walk it, as I go through my own healing journey, like I'll hit the same thing, right? But from a different vantage point. Um, so we all know that feeling of catharsis when we've cried ourselves out, right?
Mm,
We've like cried and there's nothing more to cry. And it's just a peaceful feeling because you've really expressed all of the things that need to be expressed in that moment. And and it can even feel transcendent because of how calm it is and how needed it was, right? And and processing something is like that. When I get to, if I notice a tightness in my belly, and then I pay attention to that with curiosity, not approaching with judgment, and just like, what's going on? Tell me more.
mhm,
Right? Um, and and then as my belly relaxes, then I know that I have been present with that, right? If I'm in a like if I think about a reaction, then uh let's say that like there's a person who every time that I asked about, okay, I'm be specific. Specific example. My mom, my mom, it was really challenging for me when my mom would want to talk to me about Slade because she was sad for much longer than I was. And again, I think that that difference is me processing every day versus her processing some of the time. I
mm,
don't think it was once a year for her, but I think it wasn't as frequently as I was. Right. And it's different, grandmother versus mother. It's just different. It's different, really, whatever. Right. So,
mhm,
but there, but it was just irritating to me because I was like, I've already told you about this and ugh, you know,
mhm.
back off. And every time that it was irritating to me, it caught my attention as a cue, as an opportunity for something in me to process. Right? This isn't
Mhm.
a and I just want to clarify here that it's not a remark that we should ever lower our boundaries or allow people to push us in ways that we're not comfortable with, right? Because again, we all have to do things at our own speed, in our own time, in our own way. And for me, it was okay to be irritated and the was like a feeling inside of me and not really how I was responding to her, you know. Um, and when I needed her to stop, I would tell her, and then I would offer her another opportunity to talk about him at a different time. Um,
Mm.
but for me, each time that happened and I noticed that reaction, it was an opportunity for me to spend time with it, to integrate, to ask questions of myself. What am I reacting to here? And
Oh. Yeah, this I often feel like when I'm noting and gonna like peel back a layer, right? That triggering event gives me the in to explore something that I might not be able to find if I weren't experiencing it right now, if I weren't suddenly putting my attention on that irritation or that
That's right.
reaction, that resistance. And I'll pull on it like a magician pulling on a handkerchief, and it just keeps coming, right? It's coming in different colors, and you're like, what the hell? And you're like pulling, and you're like, stomach flutter. I didn't know you were this and this and this, and it's crazy, right? And then you're
Yes,
like,
yes,
whew, it's all
yes.
done. And you're like, what a relief. There's not 50 handkerchiefs stuffed into my sleeve.
That's right. Now here's the spiral again, though, because
Mm,
because you've pulled out 50 handkerchiefs, and those 50 handkerchiefs are really gone, but it probably turns out that there's another 10 handkerchiefs in there, right?
yep.
And and maybe there's a lot more than that. And so it's that reaching that feeling of catharsis where I've explored everything that I'm cognizant of in that moment, in that interaction, in that state of curiosity. And
Mm,
and once I hit that increased feeling of peace, which is always a gift that comes with integration, always, right? No matter how small or large, because that's all just perception and just subjective languaging. But that feeling of increased space, inner space, is always present, and that's my marker.
mm. Fantastic. That resonates with me, and I hope anyone listening like also knows those moments of relief when you've processed, worked through something that was challenging or big in your mental life and like felt it no longer taking up that space and found yourself larger, right? I think it's been very cool hearing your answers to these questions. I feel like it's you're very good at giving words to express that resonate with me and I think many people. So thank you for sharing that deepness.
Yeah, thanks for having being in this space with me and for like I mean this really came from we were having a conversation and you were like that is a great conversation. Let's do that. So thank you for noticing and picking it up and being like, integrating change. I think this is a I think this is a beautiful episode to kind of put this series to bed with or to pause with. Um,
Yeah.
yeah.
And I'm
But
excited to share it. I think this is yeah. Yeah.
yeah. Well, before we go into chatter, let's do our second body scan and just see
Mm.
where our bodies are now after this discussion. So go ahead and just settle back in to following your breath. Again, allowing it to simply move in and out in its natural rhythm. Allowing your mind to drift, to notice. Notice how your body feels. Notice how your breath moves you. Notice any areas that are more relaxed than earlier or more tense. Just simply notice, acknowledge. And then gently bring your attention back to your breath. And as you're ready, begin to gently sway, to move, and then to open your eyes. So I shared after the first one about how that felt for me. How about for you? How did this one feel different than the first one for you, Philip?
The body check-in. I felt like I was already relaxed, one. And I mean, I'm sure some of it was the conversation, but I do think kicking it off with a body check-in really helps you like mellow. And so this time I like my shoulders were already back, and like instead of having to roll them back, they like dropped down. And so I felt like it went deeper. And I also felt like I felt a little different tensions on different sides of my shoulders at the beginning. And this time I felt more kind of like evenly relaxed. And I don't know what changed in the middle, but that's pretty
Yeah.
cool.
Yeah. And that's I love that. Thank you for sharing that. I love that as an example of what happens when we're just paying attention to change, right? We weren't
Mm,
actively trying to change anything. In this episode, we were just exploring, paying attention, being supportive, and all of those things add up. They stack up and they support our bodies in rebalancing themselves in this just really beautiful, really natural way.
yeah, as the positive spiral, I think
Yeah.
joy shared is joy multiplied.
Yes, yes, yes. I love that. Um, so yeah, so as we were, and I guess I'll just add too, that I also felt for me, the second body scan felt like an expanding relaxation, like an
Mm,
increased opening, because I did already start from a point of increased relaxation, and this just was opening further. Um, but
yeah.
yeah.
Often when I start paying attention to my body, I feel like I have to let it melt or thaw for like a significant period. And then it starts to feel like that spacious meditation. But at first, it feels like I'm dealing with complaints.
Sure. Yeah. Sure. Sure. Hmm.
Hey, life's hard on the body. So, like the
Well,
environment.
yeah, I mean, it's one of the reasons why I have so many body scans on the channel because I find that like so much of what happens in our mind, body, spirit systems, just bringing our attention, our gentle attention to our bodies can support them in relaxing, unraveling, and they really do the work themselves. Like we don't have to do anything. We don't have to change it. Like we just have to be available for the change and to show up for it with that space. It's like the healing and giving myself the attention of notice and non-judgment feels like getting just like a really great hug, you know? And just it's relaxing in that way.
Yeah, and it feels to me like the antidote to when you feel kind of like you're just a brain in a jar walking between rooms. I think that's a John Mulaney joke that was really funny, I thought, but also like, ouch, yeah, okay, sometimes I do feel like a brain that's just getting walked between rooms, and that's all my body's for. But these check-ins show me the beautiful space inside my body again.
Mm,
And sometimes it feels like I have to draw my mind from all these external events and context where it zips around outside my body and thinks about everything. And I really appreciate and the joy I can find by feeling my body and just like letting my brain rest within it. That makes
yeah,
sense.
it does make sense. It makes sense. Um, Yeah. So as we started to chat about earlier, um, I this is kind of the last for now episode in this podcast series, and I'm brainstorming on what series I want to do next. And I believe that it is going to be about grief and how we move through grief, how we process grief,
Mm.
um, how we stay present with grief and all the aspects there. Anyway, very much still in the works, but there'll be some dates on it on up for it probably soon. And in the meantime, I do intend to be doing some regular peace meditations. Um, I really love seeing the monks who are walking across America right now and then bringing this intention of peace with them. And I feel inspired by that. So I just want to be adding peace meditations into the fray. So those will be dropping on my channel with some regularity now that I've got my feet back under me and I've integrated my present change flow.
Yas.
But so thank you, Philip, for being here with me. And thank you everyone who has tuned in to watch us again. And I'm so grateful. Thank you for being here with us for this series. And I'm gonna just sign us off. I love me. I love you. I love us.
Mm.
I'll see you soon.
Peace.